All right. Hope everybody's doing good. We are here today with a drummer, bass player, and musician here in Kansas City. Deandre Manning, how you doing?
Hey, I'm I'm good, man.
Sweet.
Yeah, life is 360, man. It's all the good, beautiful, bad, ugly, and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, things have generally been pretty good for me right now. So,
That's good, man.
yeah,
So I actually met you up here, but I had known
yeah.
about you in
In
Wichita for
Wichita,
years,
yeah, yeah.
and just uh, you're like, and you'll probably laugh at this, but you're like actually one of those like, you know, kind of almost like legend people in Wichita where I had heard of you from like 10 different people,
Okay,
and
okay,
so, and then it was, and then definitely our mutual buddy Brad Williams,
yeah,
I was friends with
yeah.
him.
Brad, yes.
And then when you moved up here, he kind of tried to get me to jump on it real quick, because
Yeah,
we all knew that you're a good player,
yeah.
and then we ended up playing in for a little bit in the
The
dudes.
dudes, that's right. That's
But
right.
yeah, man, definitely just
I have to say thank you too, man, because Ron Foster and Dudes, that's when I first got back to Kansas City off the road. And that band was one of the first bands that I played with being back in Kansas City.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like it was an absolute honor to get
We
to
had
play
some
with you
fun,
guys,
man.
man.
We
Yeah.
had some fun.
And it was crazy. Like that band was kind of weird because, like, I mean, both you and Brad are out of control. I mean, just playing funky stuff and whatever. And it was just an absolute honor to play with you guys. But I really needed very, very specific people in that band that had very specific talents, not just high talent, but
Yeah.
so that was kind of cool. And I just it really meant a lot for you to play in the band, man.
It was a good ride for me. The time that we did it, it was a pretty eclectic band, in my opinion. I mean, come on, violin, guitar, bass, and drums, and I mean, we're coming from maybe we shared some similar interests, obviously, but then some very different roads,
Mhm.
backgrounds and stuff, and we was able to put it together, and it was a unique sound, man.
I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, the crazy thing about that is that like especially and Joe too, but like you and Brad are coming more from like jazz world really, and I was kind of doing a rock band with like
yeah,
masquerading jazz people as rock guys, but it
yeah,
was cool because like you guys played jazzy stuff
yeah,
in that, and
yeah,
that's what I wanted.
yeah,
I didn't want
yeah.
it to sound like a rock band, so I mean, you guys like fit perfectly into that.
I think it's safe to say that Brad and I both, yes, jazz, but I think we both came, of course, from the gospel background,
Mm,
church,
mm,
and maybe like funk and R&B. So
right.
that combination. But I also think it's safe to say that he and I both are our musical taste wide.
Yeah, I agree
So
with
the
that.
rock thing,
Yeah.
and you can say folk, bluegrass,
Mm.
whatever else is like, we dig it, we've heard it, so putting all those elements together, man, it's,
Yeah,
it's
well,
pretty cool.
like I said, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it really meant a lot for you guys to play in the band. I really
Oh, thanks,
appreciate
sir.
that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. But,
So tell people a little bit about maybe 2 minutes of what some stuff that you've done.
well, let's see. I'll go back in reverse. As of late, just completed a pre-release tour with a KC musician, Logan Richardson, alto saxophone, and of course he resides in Rome, Italy, as of date. But we did some dates in the States, and we did a European pre-release tour. The album is entitled Blues People. It was just released officially about a week ago, or on the 13th of this month, I believe. And as part of that pre-release tour, we also performed on the NPR Tiny Desk concert series, and that was just officially published this past Monday on the 23rd. So that was the latest project, which was a joy to do. There's a couple other hometown cats that's a part of that group. Ryan Lee on drums.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't
He's a
know
monster.
yeah. And I don't know if you know Justice West.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guitarist from here. He's like 19 years old. Probably gonna be be 20 this year. But young phenom on guitar. And then we had another guitarist. He's from the Ukraine, Igor Osipov.
Mm-hmm.
And then Logan. So that's the instrumentation: 2 guitars, bass drums,
Mm-hmm.
and sax.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that anybody knows Logan. He has definitely jazz background. But this latest project is not. It has the overtones. There's improvisation, but it's more rock, more of an edge, just high energy the whole time. Just really cool stuff. So that's been fun to do. I just did a project with Lonnie McFadden live at the Green Lady Lounge with Tyree Johnson on drums and Andrew Ouellette on piano. That was fun too. And if you listen to either one of those projects, there are some similarities, but they're like one end of the spectrum to the other. Lonnie is coming from more of the traditional KC jazz type of vibe. However, he was gracious enough to allow each one of the band members to contribute a song to the project. So the range of musical, from the traditional Kansas City jazz up to more progressive contemporary works with like R&B flavors on the CD and everything is really good CD. Charles Williams is another project that I'm a part of that came out this year. Flavors of Jazz, and the same thing with him. He's a great pianist, and the range of music on that CD is from like 1920s type of stride piano vibe up into just more kind of smooth jazz type of vibe, a little Latin flavor, traditional jazz, and some progressive stuff. Some nice arrangements of standards on that CD. And then just prior to that, I was with a road band, Groove Incorporated, for about 3.5 years, touring around, doing like the top 40 cover tunes in casinos and stuff like that, traveling in the States and stuff. And prior to that, it's just gospel, playing a lot in church, and then some well-known gospel artists as well. The late Orlando Draper, people like Douglas Miller, Donald Lawrence, who else? Myrna Summers, and I'm forgetting somebody, but this was like in my teens. Like I'm getting the opportunity to play with these people. So that was some really great experiences to have at that time. Just learning what it takes to be a musician, to be a bass player, to be a good bass player, and each one of those experiences with those people offered a lesson. On what to do, what not to do.
Yeah. So talk about your church experience a little bit. We haven't had too many people on the show that have played. It sounds like as much in churches as you. What did you learn from that experience, or what? Just talk about it, I guess.
This is it's loaded, man.
Yeah.
I guess it's a simple thing to start from the beginning. I pretty much from an early age was around church and came up in church, was raised in church. But my earliest experience with church as far as playing was really, really close to home. My mother's father started a gospel choir in like 76. I was born in 1980. And so basically when I got old enough to, walk and carry a pair of drumsticks. I became drummer for that group, and so that was probably like 3 years old. It was, yeah, about
Get in there.
Yeah. I mean, but I gravitated to it, you know. Prior to that, you know, my father is a musician, bass player, drummer, and stuff. So I was exposed to not only the gospel but other musical genres early on. My dad would have friends over at the house playing music, and I was right there in the midst, you know. You know, singing along or just, you know, I was just there, just around it. But the gospel was with my grandfather's group, the first, you know, playing with a choir. And then as well as my home church, you know, Sunday after Sunday, and then looking at my peers that may have been older than me, you know, do it, play drums and this and that and the other, and learning from them. And I tell you, my first experience on that level of someone saying, hey, you know, why don't you go take a seat because you're not quite up to par, was actually in church. And, you know, there's nothing more embarrassing, even at that age for me, is when your pastor says, like, hey, you know, why don't you go sit down and, hey, you come on and play, you know.
How'd you take that?
Like I say, at first it was just like, oh man, you know, in front of the whole church, you can sit down, so it's a little bit embarrassment. It's like, oh man, but at the same token, it's like, okay, no, I got to get better. So, you know, those kind of experiences are necessary. And I feel like kind of coming up to now, that is the thing that is handicapping a lot of the younger musicians. Because we're in this climate now of, you know, everybody can do it or everybody's a winner. And that's true to an extent. I mean, you know, if you put forth the effort, then, I mean, at least try, right? So, but it's too often where everyone tells you, like, you're good, or, oh, yeah, this, and no one ever tells you, like, you suck. You know? It's just the same thing, like, with, you know, the whole bully thing. Like, maybe bullies are kind of necessary because they force you to, like, be strong. You stand up to the bully, chances are the bully will back down. Or even if he doesn't, you know, a good fist fight or whatever, it doesn't hurt anyone. Like, see what you made of. Like, you're going out in the world, like, no one's gonna collar you.
I heard a guy say this the other day, and he was talking about self-esteem, and he was talking about how he thinks self-esteem basically is a crock, you know, and he was saying the idea that you shouldn't, especially somebody who's like 17 years old, he's like, you shouldn't feel good about anything. You don't know anything. Well, and he said you need to feel good about what you could be. You know, your potential. That's what you need to have your esteem by. But you shouldn't feel good. You're a piece of crap. You don't know anything. You're 17 years old. You know, you shouldn't feel good about yourself because there's a lot that you need to get to. You know,
absolutely.
I was like, holy crap, that's pretty deep.
That was loaded. Yeah. I would agree with that, and I would say to that, you know, the true confidence comes through experience. And when you do something long enough, practice, and this is music or whatever, that's where the confidence comes in. Not cockiness, but confidence. If you've done it long enough and you got the experiences to back it up, then you can be more or less comfortable in your own skin. You know, so yes, what the guy said, you know, when you haven't really experienced nothing, then it's all bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, people, and it is, you know, people who know can see right through it. When you put up the facade, like you this and that and the other, and it's like, get out of here, you know, get out of here. But yeah, so I just, you know, for me, there's always a balance. You know, yes, you should be complimented when you do things well, but you also should be told the truth when you have work to do.
Yeah, I think I heard another one I heard that was amazing was Dave Chappelle said that his second gig he just got obliterated.
Oh yeah, I remember
booed.
that.
I don't know if
that.
you've
Yeah.
heard of it,
Yeah,
but he
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, I got I got straight up booed off stage, and he said it was horrible.
Yeah,
You know,
but check that out.
But he
Now,
said that's the best thing that's ever happened to him.
absolutely.
You know,
Dave Chappelle, just like anybody else, in that moment after that happened, once he get past the initial shock and whatever emotion that he felt behind that, he had a decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
Either he was gonna fold and tuck his tail between his legs and go run somewhere, or he was just gonna come back stronger the next time. Simple as that.
Yep.
And that's what it is. That's what those experiences provide for you. Opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. Life is that all the time. You choose. I'm gonna do this, do that. And really that's the only thing a person has control over is that. Outside of that is, hey, crapshoot, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty deep, man. And I know like that's happened to probably all of us at some point where we had that moment where somebody didn't approve, but we kind of know deep down that they were right. You know,
Exactly.
and it's not that they they disapprove when you actually did something good and they're just jealous or something.
Yeah,
It's like you know that like a gig that you didn't prepare quite enough for or something like that. When they go like, dude, you weren't ready. It's not about you being good enough. It's about you weren't ready today. And that those are like really deep moments where you got to be honest and you know.
And there's the thing, man, and you just hit it. Like that's everyone knows that. Everyone knows that now. Either there's some that deals with that and others that put it off to the side, but then what's interesting about that for the messenger that puts the mirror in your face, then that's the culprit, right? That is the object of whatever your wrath is, and but you already know the truth. And
displacing, right? They're displacing the blame onto that person, and they're just the messenger.
And that's the current state of.
Yeah, we could go. We could go deep on that politics, but yeah, that's great, man. And I wonder too what Dave dealt with. I mean, where he's literally boo in his face, as opposed to maybe what you possibly felt at church having something like that happen, where that's a pretty fairly forgiving audience. I mean, are they gonna boo you at church, right? I mean, like
but at the same time, though, we're talking about for my case anyway. We're talking about a black church, and so let alone the grown-ups, but the kids, like in the black culture, it's things like the dozens and stuff, or people just, they'll just rag on you. You know what I mean? So you got to deal with all that, getting talked about and this and that and the other. But again, all those things make you tougher skin. If you choose, you better. It's just gonna be a whole life of that.
Yeah.
But and that's man, that's all part of it, man.
I think you and I are on the same page of how valuable that is.
Oh yeah, man. Because I'm kind of I still am, but it's kind of a time and a season for everything. But I'm a like a non-violent, just hey, let's just get along and be cool type of guy. You know what I mean? And I don't look for it. Sometimes it comes to you. And at when I was very young and stuff, that was a recurring lesson. Sometimes you can be nice to people, but they don't always return it back. You'll be met with something else that's not nice. And so, what do you do? What's the lesson? Right? So,
wish it wasn't there.
Yeah. You can wish that. I tried that. I tried that. It didn't work.
Tried that.
You get it again, pow.
Yeah.
So eventually, man, and it took a long. This was a long. I mean, it took a while to really grasp that lesson. But sometimes, people don't understand that language.
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to speak another language.
I deal with that all the time with teaching. You know, that this whole idea of what we're talking about,
Yeah.
about how nice do you be at them, like, and I think that's the core of teaching is like the motivation part of it, of dealing with this question of how hard do you come at them, which is what we're talking about. I mean, do you call them a piece of crap and you're doing it wrong, or do you only give them, oh, you're so good, like, like, and how do you come at them, with what tone, when, like, how do you say it, do you even need to say it today, all those kind of questions is to me the art of teaching, and it's kind of what you're talking about.
Man, that's the art of living, in my opinion, man. Like, that's if you're even thinking along those terms of trying to figure that out, that's the deal. And I can say what that is for me, but like your method of arriving at whatever conclusion, your balance of pulling that off is yours, based on who and what you're dealing with at whatever time. But one thing I have learned, and I stand on this, is that things are situational, and you got to know who and what you're dealing with at any moment. And for me, I think that's part of the wisdom of it. I still hold true that it's nothing beats an understanding. You know what I mean? So, in the sense that if you understand what and who you're dealing with at whatever time, then you can more consciously choose on your approach, and to producing the most beneficial or result, if you would.
More info you got.
Yeah, because you can't take the same approach with everybody, and as you know, with teaching, man, everyone learns differently, and I teach now, so I'm being taught. You might have an idea of, okay, this and that, but man, no, you got to know who you're dealing with. You got to know the kid, how he learns, what he responds to, what he doesn't. Maybe even know a little something about what he's going through with his family situation. It helps. Kids are going through, you wouldn't believe, in their home environment. So they come into school, and and so you can't be quick because they behave a certain way to get frustrated, which it can be frustrating, I'm sure, but to just fly off the handle, you don't really know what's behind that. So there's a certain amount of sensitivity involved, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that you coddle the kid and stuff like that, but there's that balance. You sweet and salt.
I
you
like that,
but I think the kids benefit a little bit more from also experiencing that sternness and the discipline aspect of, I say, life.
And you were talking about we were talking about the idea of they know. You say that to them. I think people would be surprised if you, like, this. Another guy said this on a podcast I watched. He was like, he was a military guy, and so they were at a pool, and his daughter and their bunch of friends are trying to do things off the diving board or something, and they were trying to like do a dance routine on the diving board or something, and so he came over. What'd you think of it? He's like, it was all right, but I would have liked it if you guys smiled. You didn't smile. And they were like, oh, okay. And then so they go run over, and they could tell that he was being real with them. They could tell that he was actually, first of all, watching. He was paying attention.
Yes, sir.
And second of all, he was giving actual feedback because he was actually like caring. And they went, oh, and notice what he didn't do. He didn't necessarily compliment them. Right. He said, you could do this better. And they're like, oh, okay. And they all, big eyes. And they're like...
And he wasn't ugly about it.
No.
I mean, it wasn't like he was cussing them out or anything like that.
What can they handle?
Yeah.
They might be able to handle a lot of criticism, if you do it in the right way. Or, kids might be able to handle more than you think they can.
Well, see, Rob, man, this is my thing. This is how I look at this stuff, man. Along with what you said, that you said that they could tell what place he was coming from when he told them that, man. So for me, that's like an energy thing. Which see, the proof is in the pudding for me. that's why it's undeniable that it's not necessarily the thing, but what's behind the thing.
It's not just the words.
No, it's not. It's what's behind the words, because people can call your bluff. If you're saying it sounds good, but like if it's not felt like what's behind it, then it's not. Especially with kids, like they know. Yeah. They know when you mean business and when you don't, or when you're coming from a place. And it's the same with adults. Yeah. Especially when it comes to criticism or just the truth. I mean, you know, offering just some guidance. Just like if you're coming from a place of, and I'll just say just honesty and love, because that's why you telling them the truth, because you love them. I mean, you actually care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't say shit. So. But if you come from that place, people can sense it, and even if they initially, their reaction is something adverse, which also is proof that everyone knows the truth. Because if you know, why else would you get mad?
Yeah, they blow you off. They'd be like, whatever, dude. Yeah.
But why else would you get mad?
That's a great point.
Because you ain't willing to face it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, that's all something we all go through. I go through it, you know, dealing with, you gotta look at it, man.
So on a note like that, definitely when we're in a band, we've talked about this a lot on the show, that this is one of the big questions that I've wanted to even do this show about, is when you have two guys in a band, and I've said this a lot, is that I think that's the number one reason bands break up is because of personality differences and people don't see eye to eye. But you just mentioned something interesting, that sometimes when you have a little bit of a blow up right now, you don't know what they're going to think later. You know, they might have this initial, you know, oh, that pissed me off, he said that. But when you give them a chance to go home and process that, sometimes they come back and apologize, or they come back and change themselves, or, you know, you just have no idea what they're going to do. And even if you get that conflict at the beginning, what do you think about that? Do you think that's a big problem with bands, about people just not getting along and not agreeing, and like?
Man, it's just, a band is just a microcosm of just humanity. You know, human relationships.
You're going all deep on me.
Well, man, I can't help it, man. That's just where I'm at, man. I love it. You know, human relationships, man, like, you know, people say, and I'll use the band thing as an example. And it could be communication, you know, when you're talking about relationships, being able to relate, right? And so one of those things, you talk about communication, so that means at any time, and it can change at any moment, someone is offering or bringing something, verbally communicating something, and someone is listening, and then it changes. The other person gives something, the other person is listening. But then what happens, and this sometimes if you get people that, you know, sometimes it overlaps, right? But at any time, someone has to listen and someone has to speak, right? But what if no one's listening? There's someone speaking and no one's listening. So what happens there, you know? And so, and then too, in bands, everyone has their personal taste and interest and reasons for even being in a band, or reasons for even playing music, period. Yeah. So, you know, those things are bound due to circumstances that are out of your control, but it brings those things to the forefront, and how each member of the band deals with certain situations, or, you know, and so, butting of the heads, I mean, it's just kind of inevitable, just depending on the people involved, you know? It's kind of like you said earlier, some people are more, what was the earlier conversation we had, that some people, when presented with a certain thought or idea, are quick to shut it out. Yeah. Right? And whereas other people may stop to at least consider. Don't necessarily mean they have to agree, but they may, you know, consider. Yeah, right. So, in the bandstand, if you get that sort of thing, be it a musical idea or just, you know what I mean? If you got a person that's quick to like, oh, no, I ain't doing that, this and that, and you know.
I heard Wynton Marsalis was on that Ken Burns video was talking about, and I think he was talking about life and music, but he was specifically talking about jazz. He's like, it's a negotiation, the whole thing.
Yeah.
We're all, this really communication thing is about what songs we're going to play, who's going to take the first ride, I mean, what we're wearing tonight. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is a democracy kind of a situation.
It
not always,
not always.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of band setup, and you got the band leader.
Yeah.
What type of band leader is it? Is it one that has more of a democratic type of approach? Like, hey, let us all, I welcome all your input. Or is it a cat that just, he has his view, his way, and just need the cats to come on board with what the vision is, which that's fine too.
Yeah.
It's his band.
Here's a deep question for you. Does every band need one?
There again, it's situational. Depends on the people involved.
Yeah, that's true.
And where they at. Some situations maybe you need that guy to be that guy. Like, hey, this is the direction we're going in. Other situations, I believe that that role can kind of shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe ours would be similar to that. What I'm in right now is that we all kind of can take over at different times, because we have, like, for myself, I'm probably the most musically educated. I've had the most lessons in the band.
Yeah.
So like musically, sometimes they kind of let me take over, and definitely I'm pretty organized, so I can kind of help with that. But there's other stuff that I'm not the expert in the band, and
so
we all kind of shifts for different kind of things.
And that's
stage presence stuff. My buddy is really good at that, and I'm not good at that at all.
Right.
So it maybe that's similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah, man. It depends on the people involved, man. Like definitely musically that happens all the time, man. Or any situation, but we musicians, we talk about music. 'Cause man, look, man, sometimes you find more than one quality in a person and stuff. But sometimes people have their area, man, and generally, you have the initiators, right? Then you have the facilitators or something, or the sustainers, or you know what I mean? So, and I know, like, musically, like, the energy can shift, man. At one moment, maybe it's the drummer that's like propelling the situation, right? And then it could shift. Maybe he's not, especially when you really learn this stuff. That's one thing I learned being on the road, really. When you're playing 5 or 6 nights back to back, is first of all, and playing night after night like that, especially if you're in one place. So that means like each night has to be at least, or if whatever tone you set the first night, the second night has to be that or more, and so on and so forth. So that's a certain mentality that to have and develop, man. And so each night it could be different, man. Someone might be hot one night, and then the next night it could shift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or even during the course of that night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But hopefully, when you get a group of cats that's in tune enough with the situation with each other, it can shift seamlessly, right? But when you get some cats that may not, some might be focused and others might be on some other stuff, then you have these lags in the music. Where yeah, and that's, it is what it is.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah.
So when there ain't no situations like that, do you have that leader?
Yeah.
They'll be like, hey guys, we need to pull it together and let's
or do you got 5 leaders?
Do you have right? Then that's that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Or, is the cat that's supposed to be the leader is maybe not that strong in the sense of like really like, hey, let's pull it together, and they just kind of let it You know,
because this is all. I mean, this is all. I mean, we could go deep into deep into the ramifications in the real world of this, but you know, I mean, there's all sorts of ones where you have a guy who really wants to be the leader, but like you said, where he's not. The thing you said a couple minutes ago that was so crazy was that with this communication, you've got to have the listeners, but you also got to have the tellers too, or the talkers too, because you most of the time what we don't have is the listener, you know. But I think a lot of times we don't have people are saying nothing. Exactly. You know, they're not saying the things they need to say because they're avoiding it or whatever. And there's all these leaders that aren't, you know.
That's why I don't too much care for hierarchies too much. And in most of these situations, you find it set up that way. The whole pyramid thing, right? Someone's over this, someone over this, right? And it gets smaller as you go, right? But what good is a leader without a follower?
Yeah, it's called a reciprocal.
You know, I mean, like if you have a band and you're a leader, but then like, who is your band? You got to have your bandmates, right? So anytime the leader thinks that he's above who he's the leader. Yeah, there's some things and responsibilities that's on you to bring this thing together, right? But each piece is important. So as a leader, you can't not treat your followers as someone beneath you. Right. Because they're just as much as an important part as you are to the situation. You know? So there's a saying, you know, the greatest leaders is first a great follower. Yeah. Or you know, a great leader serves. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I agree with that. I think, you know, contrary to what, you know, people might, or we've been told, you know, like, you know, you gotta like, which, I mean, there's some truth to it, but it's kind of twisted. Like people need to be in like these adverse conditions in order to get the most out of them. You know, like in the work environment and stuff. Like you got to make things uncomfortable for them, to get the most production out of them. But no, I just think if you treat them as human beings, you'll get the most out of them. Because if people get in an environment that they feel like what they have to offer or what they are offering is considered and respected, I think people will give, you know, and they're receiving in like kind based on what their output and what they're giving. I think people would be more readily, I mean, you know, wouldn't be a thing of dreading to go to work. Like, I love my job. Like, because it treats me well and I give and it treats me back. But, you know, I don't know. I'm a dreamer. No.
But so that's a good segue, because I know you were talking about this like symbiotic relationship a little bit of your the one that I always like to use is like a J-Lo, you know, where she, I mean, nobody cares about her backing band, you know, I mean, they're coming to see her. Right. But so like they sort of need her. Nobody's coming to her. Nobody's coming to their concert, you know. But at the same time, you've heard horror stories about.
She's like the draw, right? Like,
she's the draw, and she's the act, right? And so, but you find these horror stories of hearing about her 6 months in the studio, you know, about she kind of needs this Columbia Records, you know, to make her look like she's a badass. Yeah. And so she kind of needs them too, you know, in a way. Exactly. And so like,
especially if you have a case, now I'm not saying her, but if you have a case where the main attraction is really a person that really on the level as far as talent may not have it all like that, but they are the first point. They got the image, they got the look, whatever that is, and so 9 times out of 10, that's, you better believe they're gonna have a band that'll make them sound good. The baddest cats, you know what I'm saying? But you know, but it's the baddest cats, but it's like, you know, like handcuffed because it's like, you know, don't outshine the master. So you know.
I've found for myself that, and I learned, this was a big lesson I learned from the dudes. Okay. Was that, you know, I'm just not a front man, you know, and that was nice. It was nice to try that, and I'm glad I did it. But like in my other band, this guy called me like a front lead.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a weird thing. But he said where I figured out that for myself, where I fit the best in a band is in like a 5-6 piece band where I'm like kind of the number one soloer.
Yeah.
And I can get on the mic and sing some
Sing,
some backup.
still...
And maybe because me and him banter a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not good at going off the cuff myself.
Yeah.
But when he's saying some stuff, he's really good. My buddy is like he's twice better than Lonnie on the mic.
Okay.
And Lonnie's pretty good on the mic.
Yeah.
This guy's insane. He's really good. I do good bantering with him, so I'm like a good. That's my perfect role. A good soloer. I can kind of be up in front, but I'm not the main thing. So like, for somebody like yourself who's been kind of a hired gun. I don't like that term, but for somebody that's called a lot to sub in with other people's bands, what are some things that you've learned about like different reasons you think maybe why you're successful or why other people are successful at coming in and subbing a little bit in bands?
Okay, well,
or being that other role,
let me chime in back up on the with Rob Foster and the Dudes. I think that was one. I don't know if you would call it a problem. It was just a reality of that group. I don't think any one of us in that band was really a front man.
Yes, I agree.
It's like everybody could play, right? But there's that certain element like you got to interact with the audience and provide that element. And to be honest with you, I'm just now getting to a point to where I'm trying to hone in on that, like conscious, like okay, let's the situations that I'm on where I'm leading the situation. And it's like incorporate because I'm around cats that's doing the same thing. They have their way. They're cultivating it. They're developing their thing, right? So I'm around it, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's an aspect just as much as the music aspect, So yeah, that's very important, because at the end of the day, I just want to play, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
Right, so
there's annoyingly more to it.
Yeah, man, and depending on where you, really in any set, but like you're saying, the whole jazz thing. But I think that's kind of more often. You get into a thing about that, but I think that's kind of an issue. It's all about being aware of your audience. You know what I mean? And at one time, maybe 30, 40 years ago, as it relates to jazz, you had that hip audience that knew what the deal was and came to hear the music. Now it's more seeing, then hearing, but seeing first. And so
they want to be in the bar with that music playing.
Yeah, man. So like with that, man, like you gotta come at it different. Even if you're a jazz musician, whatever you want to call yourself, like you gotta understand that. So it's almost a thing of almost like re-educating your audience in a way. Yeah. So you gotta find a way to do that, and you gotta meet them where they are first, and then slowly draw them into whatever it is that you're doing. What was the question?
Well, so to maybe get, because we talked pretty generally.
Oh, about the hired gun thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing, and this is kind of tying back to the whole church thing, gospel thing. I ain't left, but I'm still with the question. One thing about when I was coming up in church playing and with choirs and different things like that, one of how we learned was orally. Yeah. So, whatever songs we had to learn, we just had to learn by listening and figured it out. And I think that's one thing leading up to date. It has one thing I got from the gospel area was just the ear training. Of course, later, early on, 11 or 12, I figured out, okay, yeah, I know what pitches are. Like, we call it perfect pitch or whatever, but I know it. So, so that plays a role. plays a hand. But even with that, it didn't stop there with me. Like over the years, I've even developed that even more, to the point to, you know, going from, and as I understood theoretical knowledge and stuff like that, it's like, okay, yeah, I can hear the notes now. Can I hear the chords? Can I call the chord out when I hear it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all those things. Okay, so those are some things that the Almighty, you know, blessed me with, that are aids and that are tools for me. That helps. Especially at this point when you schedule and you got a bunch of things at once, you know, a good memory helps. As far as that, grasping the ability to grasp music quick. But on a more like personal, like, again, energy, manhood type of thing, person, human vibe. The thing that I try to maintain is a sense of integrity in terms of being prepared for whatever job or situation that I'm being called to do. Okay, so that means learning the music, and then executing the music when it's time to execute it, right? The other thing is, again, the whole conversation piece. I listen to the people around me. So, in the sense, my whole thing is just to create something beautiful on the bandstand, and hopefully someone gets impacted by what they heard. Period.
Yeah.
I'm just about having a good time. So with whoever I'm playing with, that's who I'm honing in on, who they are and what they're doing, and I try to put my thing with that to make it harmonious, and you know, and a lot of times it works, and sometimes, you know, you get that budding just for whatever reason, you know, maybe someone's not listening, maybe someone's going home and doing a certain thing that doesn't have nothing to do with what's going on, and in those situations it's a challenge for me, because it makes my job a little bit harder, because it's like, okay, everything feels forced. You know what I mean? So like it gets to be kind of a drag. You know, it's still a job to do, but you know, it's just not. And you can't let that bomb you out. At one time, it's just like, man, but now it's just, you know, it happens.
I know for myself, one like goal I've tried to have for me here in the next 10 years or whatever is that I'm on. Fortunately or unfortunately, I love like all different kinds of music, and so I think it's really fun to be able to go up to the Blue Room and have a couple of jazz tunes that I can call it a jazz jam, or go over to these country guys and have played Your Cheating Heart and all these, you know, old tunes, and like, so I know for me, back to the idea of being kind of a hired gun kind of guy. That's helps. My thing, is I want to learn all the standards. You know, when somebody calls crazy at a old school song, Crazy, Patsy Cline, or any random old tune, you know, I want to kind of have a clue and be able to do it. And I think that's helps with and just talent level, like somebody like yourself being able to read some charts, and if you don't have the charts and they totally screw you over in the middle of this song, be able to just kind of find it, and with your ear, and
it helps.
And obviously having the facility in general to be able to do so. If they just look at you, hey, play solo, boom, and then in 1 second you just make something up and deal with it. That to me is one of the things that hired guns, they get called back a lot musically when they can do stuff like that.
I mean, that's a big part of it, Rob. Being able, just having a vast repertoire, if you will. I mean, and I think that's one thing that, as far as me being a hired gun or whatever, that's just, I mean, I can fit in a lot of different situations. Whether it be jazz or gospel or hell, even rock Country, I've done it all. Hell, the Afro-Cuban, whatever the case may be, because I love all of those music. So but I've taken the time also, and still am delving in to know what is it that makes each of those forms pop. What is the mechanism? What is the root, if you will? And then part of it too, man. I mean, it's kind of this weird thing. Me, just for me being black is in the sense of it's like you're going backwards to go forwards. Just by the nature of our history and coming here to America and having what you knew stripped, and then having to adapt what remained to your new environment and situation. So it morphs. It morphs. So then it becomes a thing. I mean, and that's just the whole nine. Like, even a little thing like trying to retrace your family tree to see what's what, because people got separated from each other. Families got broken up. So just that thing, man, like, and then so just, to have an understanding of like a lot of the musics of the world, the different styles, is like comes from you. Like a derivative of like Africa, like, so when I got off the road, that's one thing I wanted to delve more into, like the whole Latin jazz, Afro-Cuban thing, and lo and behold, I meet Pablo Sanhueza. We link up, and but only for me to find that like this is like your ancestors' stuff, like right, just like retracing the steps, man, like back, and it's an interesting thing, but each one of those musics, like I say, has a certain thing about it that makes it tick. And that's the thing that I try to hone in on, or that I try to, even in just listening to it, just that the way it makes me feel, the way it makes me move. Because if it makes me move, chances are it's gonna make the other person move too. And what is that? What is the meaning behind that? And so when it's just like anytime you get a person that a musician that when they play, and it's all about where a musician is coming from, but if they can make people move, feel something, generally that's a good thing, because the people you're playing with and generally will enjoy working with you, right?
Yeah.
And then you're by that energy being there, it's almost like sports. When we rave about the greats, but they may have skill given, right? Need of that, but what is that extra thing like? And here's the thing, people say, well, what differentiates Michael Jordan from whoever else was? They made the people around them, they brought the level up.
Yeah.
And I pay attention to that, man. That's like any musician that I play with, like when they're there and it's just like, man, oh yeah, okay. let's
everybody wants to play with them.
Yeah.
And it's not just talent. It's
and
a
it's
whole bunch
not
of
necessarily their skill. That's there. It's just the
Yeah.
feeling that they generate just by nature of who they are. And so,
because skill could be playing over you. Right? They're just playing solos, like turn that up to, well, that's skill, but doesn't make us or group any better.
Exactly. So it's just like your own concert within a concert, right?
I heard one that is a little bit different topic, but I heard whenever I go to the blues jams, it always kind of cracks me up when the guys, talk about basically guys down at the Blue Room, they don't play real blues, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, like I was just like, they play jazz blues, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, really?
Well,
You know, and I'm like, no, yeah, I'm like, they don't play Stevie Ray Vaughan style blues usually.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that if you're gonna make that claim, but like that kind of coming to the core of what that music is what you just said. I'm like, I just like. That's one of those times where I have to like cut my mouth. I'm like, you have no freaking idea what you're talking about.
I
you
mean,
know?
and that gets back to what I was saying earlier, man. I mean, even with Stevie Ray Vaughan, like, who did he get it from? You know what I'm saying? And when you already know when you say the blues, man, you're talking about it. Really, it's that first because that's where it came from. But anytime, I mean, you live in this thing called life. And especially from the African American experience, man. Like the experiences of all we know the history, so all of that, the music was a vehicle to express the whole 360 of the experience. And so blues is blues, and it's the pain, it's the blue of it, so of life. The jazz that came about later, is like a derivative of that. The blues is still there. You can't have jazz without the blues. But with the jazz, man, you had other. I mean, it still is part of the experience. That's why when you talk about music, I don't think there's any separation from the social circumstances of each period of music that was happening at that time, and this and that. It's all connected.
It's all a reaction, right?
I
mean, it's a reaction to life, and then music doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen.
No.
Something you felt something from some other thing, and then boom, you write about it,
and that's the thing that gives it its power, because it's truth. It's something that's being dealt with. And so, going back to your statement about the real blues, well, again, like I say, anybody knows is jazz is blues. It's just some other elements involved. It's not necessarily the downtrodden, 4 on the floor, guitar, 12 bar, whatever. My baby left me. That's a part of an experience too. But then, with the jazz, that started coming about was a little something different. We had people migrating from the south to the north, and experiencing that whole thing, and a different racism. But it ain't the cotton field south stuff. It's some other, little bit more covert. Rendering, but just being exposed to some things that they had been exposed to before, being able to get a factory job, but now you're in the city, so then whether you're in a project, little apartment, or if you was able to afford some housing, but then depending on what neighborhood you left in, is the cross being burnt in your front yard and stuff like that. But you being aware of some things that just being on a plantation you may not have been aware of. A little bit more of the world, you know what I mean? Which gives you a different sense of your place in it. And the music reflected that, right?
Yeah.
Being able to get fly in a zoot suit and go, uptown, and different mentality from the cotton fields, and so it progressed, and so I would say the real blues is blues that's experienced. You know what I mean? So let just live, keep, like my granddad always tell me, just keep waking up, lying down and waking up. Life will present you with some situations where it bring about the blues. So, but yeah, this jazz blues is blues.
Yeah.
Blues is blues. Rhythm is blues is blues.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Gospel is blues, you know.
Yeah, it's really important to see that this kind of created this, and this created that, and that created that, and that's just when those guys say a phrase like that, it sounds so ridiculously ignorant. I can't even stay. I mean, it's laughable. I almost start laughing at me. Like they don't know anything about anything. But that's one thing I try to explain to my students a little bit is the reactive nature of everything. Is that like stuff just doesn't just happen. There was something before that, and something before that, and something before that, and then
that's my issue with the statement, the catchphrase now when people say it is what it is. I get it. But then my question is always, well, how did he get that way?
Yeah. Right.
But it's like we were talking about earlier about the what is it, the personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. Like you got a stake in this thing. Like whether you recognize it or not, right?
Yeah.
By action or non-action.
Right.
But,
so
then it is what it is.
Yeah. So we're probably getting pretty close here.
Okay.
I would love for you to share your story you were talking about at the beginning. With
man,
the gig. It was a good one.
Yeah. Well, one big lesson, because I consider myself to be an improvisator, right? And I play improvisation music, but and that extends from further than just the music. It's a lifestyle. So, and I mean, hell, if you think about it, we have our routines, but some of that the other side, the balance is like some stuff, man, you don't know what the hell we doing. You make it up on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. That makes it exciting, I think.
Yeah.
But years ago, man, I still was living in Wichita, Kansas, and at the time I was playing with a saxophonist in a trio set at a particular restaurant. And this particular gig, I was running a little behind, and in the process of me rushing, trying to get to the gig, I arrive at the gig, only to find out, like, oh man, where's my stick bag? I'm playing drums, right? Oh man, okay. My then apartment at the time was at least 15 minutes away. I ain't got time to go back and get it. Okay, now mind you, I got my drums. I still got to get set up. It's in a restaurant. The space that the bandstand is located, where it's located, is a small space. Patrons eating their dinner. I got to maneuver with my bass drum and hardware and set up a minimal kit. Okay, what am I gonna do? Don't have no sticks. Light bulb. Okay. Excuse me, waitress. Man, I forgot my drumsticks, man. Can you hook me up with like some couple forks or some knives and stuff, man? So, long story short, I played a whole 3-hour gig with kitchen utensils on the drums and pulled it off.
Dude.
Other than just seeing me playing with them, I mean, but as far as the music, it didn't stop.
That's what's up, man.
Improvisation, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like this is one thing I always tell my students is that like when you're in your practice room, it's kind of one thing, but then when you're out at a gig, all sorts of stuff is going on, right? People are coughing, people are, there's a fight in the back, there's all of a sudden your mic doesn't work.
Yes.
I mean, there's like you just can't deal with the fact that you've got to go to the bathroom right now. There's just all sorts of stuff. And the preparing that we're doing is for all of that.
Yeah.
Or you get up on stage and you literally have like this, or else you're gonna fall off the stage, and that's just what you get tonight. So all the preparing that you have to do to have a whole bunch of other stuff on lockdown, so that your brain can kind of handle this stupid deal that you have to use like cooking utensils tonight.
But that's the aspect. That's the personal aspect that you got to deal with. Let alone the musical aspect. That's the personal aspect, because like you say, those are situations that are usually, most times out of your control.
Yeah.
Life happens, shit happens. So, like I said before, the only thing that you have absolute control over is your reaction or your response. Being responsible, able your response to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So experience.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Einstein that said the only true knowledge is gained, starts and ends in experience? Something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a musician, enough experiences, man, you become better in dealing with those situations, or maybe not. Just depends on who you are. Because it's going to happen, man. Matter of fact, the last tour I was on, we're minutes from going on the stage, and I had my bass with me, like warming up, waiting to enter the stage. They're introducing us, and all those pew G-string breaks.
Yeah, wow.
They get ready to call us on the stage, right? Been here before, you know, enough to know, keep some extra strings on you close.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all I had to do was just go to my case, get my G-string, wind it on real fast.
Yeah.
And go.
I'm never going to a gig ever again without two violins. I'm never doing it, man. If I'm in you know, El Dorado or something, you know, or some middle of Kansas somewhere, I mean, I'm screwed. This is Friday night, right? I mean, nobody's open, even if there was somebody, you know. And ours, you can't just string it up. I mean, it's going to be going flat all night, you know. Guitar and bass, you can kind of deal with it.
A little bit, but if it's like a fresh string, man, it's going to slip.
Yeah,
you're going to have to be tuning it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm never doing it again. I'm always bringing two. And if I break the second one, then you just... You know, you just got to punt. You know, I mean, it wasn't meant to be tonight. You know, but that's your experience thing.
Man.
I mean, like,
or anything, man. Your amp might go out or something. Just stuff. Man, like you said, the mic, you know, sound system acting crazy on you, or it just man, just a thing like, or you might have a heckler or something in the audience, or just anything, man, and just over time you just learn how to deal with those things. You know, just not allow it to take you out of your game so much.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's a mental. Woo.
Yeah, I know. That's a good one, man.
Yeah.
Well, I bet we could probably go for hours on this stuff. I love talking about this stuff. I think it's fascinating, you know. But definitely, like I said, you know, I was really honored to have you play in the band, man. You're one of the best players I've gotten to play in a band with before, and it was a real honor.
Yeah,
so
we had fun, man.
I appreciate you playing, and
yes,
come check Deandre out. He's playing all over town, and apparently all over.
Can we pub on here?
What?
Can we pub on here? Like
Do
places to play? Oh, okay. Well, let's see. I'm a part of Eclipse Trio. Myself, Everett Freeman Jr. on piano, Michael Warren on drums.
Those two are monsters.
It's a joy to play with those guys. Every Tuesday and Friday we play at Eddie V's restaurant on the Plaza. Tuesdays from 6 to 10 and Fridays from 7 to 11. And with the same group, Eclipse Trio, we also do Thursdays. There's a new spot, I don't know if you know, 10th and Broadway. It's a speakeasy called Hush that we play from 6 to 10. But this building that Hush is a part of, it's on the very bottom floor. And above that is the Broadway Bistro, which we also play there like every second and fourth Friday for brunch, like 11 to 2. But this building is like 6 total floors, and that they're working on the last 2 floors. But they have like Hush, the speakeasy, the bistro, then they have like a game room, then they have another club above that, and they working on a club above that. It's just this multiplex. Really cool for Kansas City. You know, they still, you know, working out the kinks and building on it and everything, but it's gonna be pretty dope.
That's cool.
And so, as you can see around town, I'm with Eclipse Trio on the weekly basis most of the time, but I will say here at the Wild, I will be playing with Lonnie McFadden on Saturdays here shortly at the Black Dolphin. And, you know, just stuff in between. You know, sometimes the Monday Night Jam at the Blue Room or, you know, stuff like that. So
cool, man.
Yeah.
All right. That's the end of the show. It's Deandre Manning. thanks for coming, man.
Oh man, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, no problem. We'll be back again. More musicians talking about a whole bunch of stuff. So, all right. Get out of here. See you later.